Guys, what is going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are keeping safe. About a week and a bit into the lockdown, and um, it kind of feels like ages already, if I'm honest with you. But it's gonna get worse in terms of as the weeks and days go by. And last time I noticed, the lockdown went crazy fast, and I'm pretty sure this one's gonna go crazy fast as well. But let's talk some boxing. Let's get into it. Mike Tyson has again taken a shot at Floyd Mayweather, saying that just because a man is 50-0 doesn't mean he's the greatest fighter of all time. And he's not the GOAT as what he claims to be. This is what Mike Tyson had to say. Now, Mike Tyson, for me, I always get the feeling that he doesn't like Floyd Mayweather. Um, I don't know. I don't know why. I think he said a few things, Mayweather, that probably don't sit well with Mike Tyson. I think the way he spoke about Ali, I think Mike Tyson has a very he looked up to Muhammad Ali, and I think the way Mayweather said that I'm better than him and greater than him, I don't think that sat down too well with Mike Tyson. Um, and Ali and Robinson, who Mike Tyson views as the goats, he thinks that Floyd Mayweather, by saying that, is probably disrespectful, and that's why he doesn't think a man, just because a man's 50-0 should and undefeated should be considered the greatest. Yeah, fair enough. Mayweather's a great fighter. There's no doubt about it. Mayweather's done a lot in the sport of boxing. He's achieved a lot. He's beaten all of the champions of his era, and I do think that a lot of people give Mayweather a lot of stick. Um, I was speaking to someone the other day on my Facebook boxing group. Join if you haven't joined. Leave a message if you want to join. And he said that there's so many different angles to look at this, right? Yes, Mayweather was great. He made more money than anybody else. He did a lot. He beat everybody. He was undefeated. But just because somebody's undefeated, that doesn't mean that you're the greatest, right? Just because you're undefeated doesn't mean you're the greatest, right? It doesn't. And that's a fact. Just because someone's undefeated, and Mayweather changed that. Mayweather changed a lot of our boxing minds. That now, when we have guys that have a couple of losses, people think they're bums. It's crazy. Like, Sugar Ray Leonard had quite a few losses, didn't he? He's not a bum just because he had a few losses. The reason why people have losses is because they're fighting stiff competition. If you fight enough fighters in their prime that are legit, you're probably going to lose. Now, Mayweather was a phenomenon, but Mayweather also gets criticized for picking and choosing the right times to fight his opponents. And listen, I do think that people exaggerate that, but it's true as well. He did do that. He did do that. Now, that doesn't mean, I think people take too much credit away from Mayweather. I know he was smart by doing that. And still, even to beat the versions that he beat of the great fighters that he got in the ring with, still takes a lot. Takes a lot. Even those versions could beat most champions. And Mayweather did a great job, and he schooled them. But when we're talking about the greatest, we're talking about a very high, and the margin of error is very small. And the criticism is, you can be criticized for every little thing, even though Mayweather's career was almost perfect. But in terms of his picking and choosing, that obviously fighting guys at the right time, that is true. Ali, Robinson, these guys didn't do that. These guys didn't let me pick and choose the right time to fight this guy, or this guy's more dangerous now. Like, Ali fought Foreman when Foreman was at the top of his power, at the peak of his powers, right? And most people thought that Ali would get put into hospital. That's the kind of fight. Like, Mayweather, for example, fought Canelo, and a lot of people thought Canelo could beat Mayweather even when he fought him. But let's be honest, that wasn't prime Canelo. But nevertheless, Mayweather could only have fought him at that stage, because Mayweather can't fight Canelo now, who's in his prime, because Mayweather's way gone. So I get that. I get people that are for Mayweather and people that are against Mayweather. But when you look at some of the names that he fought that are Hall of Famers, like De La Hoya, slightly past it. And even when Manny fought De La Hoya, yeah, De La Hoya was finished. It wasn't prime De La Hoya. And when Mayweather fought him, he was slightly past it as well. When we look at some of the other names, Shane Mosley, slightly past it. It wasn't prime Mosley. Cotto was a good win for sure. Maidana was a good win. Maidana was definitely in around his prime. Who else? Let's look at like Virgil Ortiz. I mean, not Virgil. Victor Ortiz. But how good was Victor? Berto, he was past his best, and he wasn't that great in his prime either. You know, he was a good fighter. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't an elite fighter. Now, who else did Mayweather fight? You know, Mayweather's guys that he fought in his prime was early on in his career. Fought Castillo, Hernandez. Fought many. I think later on in his career, from 140 to 147, a lot of the guys he fought were not in their primes. You know, I think that you could say. I think people forget about the early Floyd Mayweather, pretty boy Floyd, who fought everybody. I think the businessman Floyd became from 140 to 147. I think or especially 147, he became more of a businessman. You know, he avoided some of the fights like Paul Williams, Margarito, and he became more of a businessman. But let's not take away what Floyd did in the lower weight classes, where he fought everybody and beat everybody. You know, so, and let's be honest, even though Floyd Mayweather, everyone wants to talk about his career is perfect, most people thought he lost to Castillo. They thought he lost fair and square. So this undefeated stuff is all nonsense, because a lot of people thought Mayweather lost against Castillo. Definitely, some people thought Maidana was close, but fair enough, we'll give him the benefit of doubt for Maidana. But Castillo was a fight that everybody thought he lost. In terms of the greatest, I don't really want to get into it because everyone's got their own opinion. It's an opinion, isn't it? Who do you think's the greatest? Do you think a guy that's undefeated, that beat a lot of former world champions? Or do you think a guy like Ali, who took on all comers at their prime, he didn't care when he fought them? Like, the man beat Sonny Liston when Sonny Liston was on top. He beat Foreman when Foreman was on top. He beat Frazier when Frazier was on top. You know, he beat some of the guys that he fought were like killers, man. Ernie Shaver's massive puncher. You know, he fought everyone, even towards the fights that he lost right at the end, like Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes was a killer. He's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. You know, this is what I'm saying. Ali took on everyone and anyone. You know, you can't say just because somebody's undefeated that his resume, like Ali fought killers, man. Like Frazier was a killer. Foreman was a killer. Liston was a killer. And then he fought Ken Norton, who was a killer. Like, he fought some real killers, man. He fought some real killers. I don't think Mayweather's got that kind of resume where he fought guys that were on top, that were at the peak of the past. People were saying Mayweather's going to get killed here. You know, I don't see it. So, Ali, Robinson again. Robinson fought killers, man. You know, and he avenged his losses, and like, oh man, like LaMotta, look how great those fights were with LaMotta. LaMotta was a great fighter. You know, again, it's hard. Like Sugar Robinson, wasn't he like 120-1? Like, the man was 120-1. He was fighting like 1 year. My brother told me, and brother checked his box rec, and my brother said, I think it was 1950. Sugar Ray Robinson fought like 24 times. That's almost twice a month. And imagine fighting killers twice a month. That's crazy. Crazy stuff by Robinson, man. And that's the kind of warriors these guys were back in the day. So, like I said, you can't really compare a 50-0 guy when Robinson fought almost half of Mayweather's fights in 1 year. And his career was long. His career was like, what? I think he started in 1940, I think, Robinson, and finished in 1965, I think. You know, the guy's career was long, 25-year career, man. And he fought, what, 219, but something like that. He fought crazy amount of times. Like, Robinson was 200 bouts or something like that. That's a goal. Even if you go on average, if you fought 25 years, that's 4 times a year. That's way more than any. Like, Mayweather used to fight twice a year. That's double what Mayweather, even if you go off his average of 25 years, because I'm pretty sure there must have been years where Robinson may have been inactive. But Ali, Robinson, man, these guys fought. Oh, man, they fought a lot. You know, especially Robinson's time, they fought a lot. And Ali, like, he fought killers, man. He fought killers. And let's not forget, Ali's prime years, some of his prime years got taken away because he went in jail. People tend to forget that. Ali was oh man, he was a beast of a fighter. So was Robinson. But again, I don't like taking away from Floyd, because Floyd did a lot. Floyd achieved a lot. Floyd deserves his credit as well. But I just don't think that the undefeated stuff and the money stuff is stuff that you can say you're a GOAT because of that. It's a matter of opinion, really. I don't think that just because somebody's undefeated and somebody's the richest fighter, you know, of all time probably is the GOAT. I just don't think that's the criteria. I think you've got to look at Ali transcended the sport. So did Robinson. They transcended the sport. People still, years after they retired, still talk about. And will people still talk about Floyd years after? I don't know. Possibly. I don't think they will. I don't think his name will live on like Ali's will. But Ali stood for a cause outside of the ring. So, again, Ali was more than a boxer. You know, he's an icon. And you can't really compare the two. Like, Ali was the most famous boxer ever in history. So, can't really compare Mayweather and Ali just because of how big a icon Ali was. You know, you can't really compare Mayweather and Ali, really. And Robinson, again, he may have not been as famous as Ali, but again, in terms of what he did for the sport of boxing, to a lot of the purists, Sugar Ray Robinson is the greatest fighter ever. Ali, you know, what he stood outside of the boxing ring, I think Ali, in terms of being a boxer and outside the ring, can be considered the greatest. But maybe just inside the ring, to a lot of the purists, Robinson was the best. Sugar Burt's, you know, saw all of them. Mayweather, Pacquiao, Ali, he said there was never no fighter like Robinson. So, you know, I don't know. It's a hard one. It's opinionated. It's an opinion. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I don't personally think that Floyd is the greatest, but then that's just my opinion. Everyone else is going to have their own opinion, you know. But leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think. It's an interesting debate. Mike Tyson obviously gave his opinion. Obviously, he feels like, to me, Mike Tyson definitely maybe doesn't like Floyd that much. I don't know. But again, it may just be his opinion, and he's just saying, I don't think a guy that's undefeated and 50-0 is a reason why he's the greatest. But that's Mike Tyson's opinion. You leave your opinion in the comment section below. And guys, I will see you in the next video. Peace.